Today we are visiting Greenwich, England, and our goal is to visit the Royal Observatory. There's more to do in Greenwich than just the Royal Observatory, as you'll soon see, but this is really the highlight. So if you have to pick just one thing to do in Greenwich, then this is it. The observatory is located on a hill in Greenwich Park, so there's a bit of a hike up to get there, but the views are spectacular. And the park itself is a tourist attraction in its own right, if not just to have a picnic lunch and recover from the walk up to the observatory. To get to Greenwich, we took a river cruise down the Thames, and you can see our fun journey in another video I posted. And once we got off the boat, we checked out the map to orient ourselves. You can see listed here other attractions, including the old Royal Navy College, other royal museums, and the town centre, which includes the famous Greenwich Market. Oh, and let's not forget the Cutty Sark. We walked through the Lewin Gates, and then straight ahead was the Visitor Centre, a huge building with grand columns, statues, and even a cannon. Inside is a bookshop, an information desk, and also a mini-museum with exhibits about Greenwich. There's also a restaurant and bar inside. Recently, the Visitor Center has started charging for entrance to the exhibits, and the public toilets, as they call them, are now located beyond the exhibits, which means that you have to pay £3 to use the bathrooms. I've seen a lot of criticism of this on TripAdvisor, so hopefully they will rethink their bathroom strategy. Here's another helpful sign, and there are helpful signs all over Greenwich. These ladies with the red umbrellas are from the Viking cruise ship to guide their passengers, so you know this is a heavily visited tourist site. And here on the right is the first major attraction. Aside from the public bathrooms at the Visitor Center, this is the Cutty Sark. This ship was one of the fastest in its time and sailed between Britain and China in the 1800s. It's now permanently docked here and a tourist attraction, of course. It looks quite busy today, maybe because there's a cruise ship in town, and right across from the Cutty Sark is the old Royal Navy College with lots of history and things to see and do. But we're on our way to the Royal Observatory today, so onward we go. It's really hard to get lost here with signs pointing the way everywhere you look. There are signs and maps. We passed an iconic telephone booth, which later on we saw being used as some sort of mini supermarket, and then on to another map, of course. Very much appreciated, don't get me wrong. You can see where we are here. And way up on the top left is the Royal Observatory. This outer ring is the 5-minute walking mark, and we need to go beyond that. And as you'll see, it's uphill, so depending on how fast you walk, it's about a 15-minute walk up the hill to get to where we want to go, the Royal Observatory. Why? Because I really want to step on that Meridian line. Doesn't everybody? On the way, we passed more signs directing us where to go, a tavern across the street in case you're thirsty, and up ahead I see more signs. It's really hard to get lost here. Here we are coming to Greenwich Park, and beyond is the National Maritime Museum, and again a sign pointing us to the Royal Observatory. You can really spend an entire day here. There's so much to see. I love the history here, the architecture, and the way everything is so tourist-friendly. It's not just tourist-friendly, it's bike-friendly and dog-friendly. I guess there's no leash law here. So now we are walking through the park, and according to yet another helpful sign, the Royal Observatory is a 6-minute walk up the hill. The hill has a little incline, but you can take it slow and stop for pictures, and then the view gets nicer and nicer as you walk up the hill or run. In case you're wondering where the Queen's house is, and this is the famous Shepherd 24-hour gate clock, and it's right now 12:45, And at 12:58, the famous red ball creeps back up, and then at 1 o'clock, the red ball drops down. This served as a time signal to any ships that might be on the Thames or anyone else in London who could see the red ball. This red ball has been doing its thing, telling people the time since 1838. This is the entrance to the Royal Observatory. No, it's not free, and I'm sure some people hike up here just for the view. But we're going inside, although not before we get a good look at the view for ourselves. And here's more signage with a listing of all the things we will be able to see and do. Before going inside the Royal Observatory, we took a look at the beautiful view and sat on a bench, people watching. Actually, we were eating our sandwiches we brought along for lunch, and then we were ready to begin our tour of the observatory. And following the signs to the entrance, we came across some things to look at. This is before you pay an admission price, so there are some things to do without paying. This is a sundial, one of the oldest known devices for telling time. And here we can see where John Flamsteed, the first royal astronomer at Greenwich, used a 100-foot well for his very long telescope sometime in the late 1600s. The circle of bricks you see here was constructed to show the approximate site of this telescope well. And there's still more to look at in this courtyard before you even buy your tickets or go into the Royal Observatory. Here's the remaining section of a 40-foot long reflecting telescope that was built for William Herschel, who then became famous for discovering the planet Uranus in 1781. Okay, I think we're ready to get our tickets and go into the observatory, don't you think? Apparently, Greenwich has 4 meridians, as 4 successive astronomers, Flamsteed, Halley, Bradley, and Airy, all worked from different points using different equipment. This here was Flamsteed's meridian. This is interesting. It's called the dolphin sundial, and the tips of the 2 dolphins' tails cast a shadow on the dial plate, which is engraved to represent the hours. The midpoint between the shadows of the dolphins' tail tips indicates the time. This area is called the Sun Garden, and it's full of information and, of course, people. Next, we entered the famous Flamsteed House, named for its first occupant. The red time ball you saw earlier is above this building. The building housed multiple astronomers who worked here, and this has been turned into a museum with many exhibits and lots of informational plaques. It would take hours to read everything, but we browsed around and it was really pretty fascinating. Now we're going to visit the octagon room up these stairs, and it's a very large room with huge windows and a 360-degree view of Greenwich Park. This house was built on the foundation of a previous castle, and apparently Flamsteed could not use the house properly because the position was 13 degrees off of true north and because none of the walls were aligned with a meridian. This meant that the actual positional observations had to be made in a small outhouse in the gardens. But because of the huge windows, the royal astronomers were able to get a good look at the night sky and make other observations. This sign gives a little history about the octagon room, and of course it has 8 walls and a very high ceiling. After touring a bit more of the Flamsteed house, we went back outside looking for the Meridian line, the famous one, the one that's currently in use. But first, the camera obscura. And there's a line. That's because they only let one group in at a time, so you have to wait your turn and meanwhile enjoy the scenery. The term camera obscura is Latin for dark room, and the room is quite dark inside, so I'm not sure how much you'll see from my camera. We'll see. The mirror on the roof collects light and reflects down through a lens that produces an image on a table. So finally, it was our turn, and when we stepped past a heavy black curtain, we could see a white table with nothing projecting on it since we were letting in too much light. We close the curtain, and wow, in full living color, a live video feed of the outside world. And above, you can see the small opening in the roof that's projecting the image, or really a video. Really interesting. Here's a nice view and a board that tells you which buildings you're looking at. This pillar was used as a meridian marker from 1750 to 1851 when George Airy, the 7th Astronomer Royal, moved the meridian line a little to the east to its current position, where you see all the people lined up, straddling the line and taking selfies. There is a clear sign here that says you don't have to form a line. You can step on it anywhere you like, but still we saw people waiting their turn in line. So I just jumped right in because I follow the rules, and you can see everyone is having fun putting their feet on and over and around the line. It is kind of fun in a nerdy way to walk the line with one foot in the west and one foot in the east, according to the astronomers deciding to make this the line that everyone uses today as a point of reference. Now I'm standing on James Bradley's meridian line from 1750, and there's no one waiting here to take a selfie. Looking back, people are still coming. This is really a popular spot. Next, we entered a building labeled the Meridian Observatory. The signage says that this building was used to build up a map of stars using a very accurate pendulum clock called a regulator. And because it rains so much in London, they have an umbrella dryer. Very low tech, but I guess it works. Never saw one of these before. This is a clock that was used by the 6th Astronomer Royal, John Pond, from 1767 to 1836, and I think this is some sort of a telescope. This is pointing to the prime meridian that we were stepping on before, the line that divides the west and east, and yes, there are more people out there waiting their turn to walk the line. We've been here a couple of hours, and it's really been very interesting, and of course there's a gift shop right before the exit. Oh, this is cute. East and west socks. I guess you wear the east on the right and the west on the left, but only if you're facing north. So what happens when you're facing south? I don't know. So back the way we came, only this time downhill, and past the shepherd's clock with the official royal measurements. Of course there's a crowd around, and it's free. And here we are going downhill, and you can see all these poor people trudging up the hill. It's actually not too bad since it's paved, and you can rest and take in the views along the way. And here you can see that Greenwich Park is a great place to have a picnic lunch. Just be careful when you're walking around London or Greenwich or any place in England, I guess. The cars are coming from the opposite side of the street, and if you're from most any other country, you're going to be looking the wrong way when you cross the street. It's a little bit disorienting. And remember this phone booth on the way in? Well, someone set up a mini-mart. Imagine that. This is right across from the Cutty Sark, in case you need something, although I'm not sure exactly what he's selling. And that's it for our trip to the Royal Observatory in Greenwich. We took a riverboat back to London, which is a very pleasant ride, and I have a video review of that cruise. If you're interested, check out my video. Have a great time in London, and thanks for watching. Bye!